now, and then I'm going to turn it off so we don't hear it. Susan, why don't you go ahead and share the screen?
All right. Welcome, everybody. We are so excited you're here. We are doing this week a virtual innovation camp, and this one is all about tiny houses. This is day 1 of 4, and it is all going to be focused on measuring.
So we want you to know that this is very a flexible camp. If you have to leave the camera, if you have something else this afternoon, all of these videos will be online, okay? So you're going to be able to, let's see, someone is giving me a, okay, so somebody's eating lunch. They're going to turn their video a little bit later. You can go back and look at these videos later and get all the materials, but we're going to be watching videos, practicing our building skills. We have professional builders and contractors that are going to talk to us, and then we're going to work on your design. Obviously, we can't be with you, but we will be with you virtually. We will go ahead and explain that Susan and I were going to be together this week. But with the COVID-19 and everyone trying to stay safe, we thought it'd be the most responsible thing to do to stay in our own states and just do this virtually. So she is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm in Durham, North Carolina. So what's next? So this is a little review, or not a review, a preview of what's going to happen this week. So today, as Susan said, we're going to be measuring. On day 2, we're going to be cutting. On day 3, joining. And day 4, finishing. Now, that does not mean you have to wait until day 2 or day 3. We want you to start building as soon as you're ready to start building. But we will be given instruction on these particular days.
And we might be giving you some tips and tricks that you hadn't thought about. So even if you have started to build, you might change your mind and want to do something a little differently after we've talked together. So that's why we're focusing on those things each day.
And you are the contractor and builder, so you make those decisions. Susan, tell us about this.
All right, so everybody, your parents should have gotten an email with you that gave you a link to our home base. And we'll be sending that out again, so in case you didn't get it, you will get it. This home base up in the upper left where you see the blue house and me and Daisha is where you start everything to get into our meetings together, to get into our daily reflections, to see what we did each day, and also so that you can click on the door and visit our tiny house neighborhood. Everybody has a house. How many of you guys have seen this neighborhood already? Raise your hand if you've checked it out. Did anybody click on the link yet? Okay, so everybody has a neighborhood. And on that house, there's a link, and it will take you to a page that's all your own. And you're going to be able to take pictures and show us what you are working on, because everybody's project is going to be different. Tomorrow, we will be going in here, and I'll show you exactly how to navigate it. But if you want to do that a little ahead of time and kind of check it out and kind of figure out where's your house, how do I click to get down to my page? And I don't know, you might want to take a picture today of something you worked on and try and see if you can put it up there ahead of time. So that's what this is all about. Your home base is the blue house, and our neighborhood is where your house is going to be.
We have invited people in each day to talk with you. So our first special guest is Todd Dalton. Now, Todd is a contractor and builder from Hickory, North Carolina, and he owns his own company. Well, he'll tell you a little bit about himself, but I want you to listen particularly for what organization that he works with that helps other people have houses of their own. Susan?
Oh, hang on. I clicked the wrong thing. Do you guys ever do that and click the wrong thing?
Hi guys, I'm Todd Dalton. I have a construction company here in Hickory, North Carolina. I think I first really fell in love with construction when I was fairly young. When I joined the United States Navy, I was assigned to a battalion called the Seabees, which is a construction battalion for the Naval Service. After that, I went to college, got into sales, and found that I really wasn't happy in sales. and I ended up going back to my first love, which was construction. I think where I really learned the most about energy engineering, about energy efficiency and things of that nature was when I worked as the construction manager for Habitat for Humanity, which is a wonderful organization. You ever had the chance to volunteer for them, I highly recommend it. The affiliate here in Hickory was really, really concerned with energy efficiency as well as being able to build a home that's obviously affordable for those families. Spent 7 years there and learned an awful lot. It was a wonderful experience, and I highly recommend it to anyone there that's listening right now. I took my own company out about a year ago. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy construction as a whole, and I really like seeing the final structure or the final product when I'm done with, whether it's a bathroom renovation or a kitchen renovation, or whether it's building an entire house. I just really find a lot of pleasure in seeing a finished product and something tangible that I can touch with my two hands. I highly recommend anyone who's interested in engineering, construction, to take this course. It's wonderful. And thank you, Daisha, for inviting me to do this today. Take care.
Well, thank you, Todd. I'm sure that you also know people that work in the construction field, so make sure that you reach out to them this week and let them know what you're doing. So there are 3 parts to our day. Our first part of our day will always begin with viewing something, whether it's taking a look at videos or looking at houses that you've already built. The next part of our day will focus on skills. So we're going to practice the tasks that you will need for your build. Now, Susan will practice the skills that she will be using cardboard mostly. And I will be practicing those same skills, but I will be using wood. So we want you to know that you'll have an option to see both of these being used. And then you're actually going to build. You're going to do things to build your home. So speaking of building, I'm going to ask you, Susan, to move to the next one. And we're going to talk about, I think, how we're going to build. But before we do that, let's set some ground rules for this week. Susan, you want to tell us about those?
Absolutely. So we have 6 things that we'd like you to do. And I know you're on mute, but you can still say these back to me so that I know that you're hearing it. The first thing that we want you to do is to be kind. Everybody say, be kind.
Be kind.
Awesome. And that's especially important in an online environment. We want to make sure that we're communicating with kindness and encouraging other people. The second thing that we want you to get in the habit of doing is keeping that microphone on mute, unless you want to ask a question or you want to share something. When we keep our microphones on mute, we make sure that background noise doesn't make it so that we all can't hear what's happening. So we're going to practice a lot with that. The third thing is that chat window, and Ms. Daisha already has some things, and we're going to have you type some more things in that chat window. Please use that for only having conversations about our projects, right? That way we can make sure that everybody is able to read that and use it effectively. We want you to get creative. Everybody say, get creative.
Get creative.
I know some of those faces that I'm seeing out there, and I already know that they're creative, but we really want you to use your creativity. The next thing, do you see that question mark in the middle of that white circle? And then around it, there are stars, oops, that say why, what, how, when, who, where. We want you to ask questions. This is a great learning chance for you to go, okay, but wait a minute, how do you do that? Or what did you say? So ask lots of great questions. And then I think, Ms. Daisha, I don't know about you, but I think the last one's super important.
Yes, we want to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's okay. For those of you that are having issues with your computer, that's fine. You just jump back in. Remember, all of this is being recorded. So if you have to go back and check on it, you can. Susan, I'm going to ask that you keep sharing your screen, but can you just put it in edit mode for just a moment so you're not in full screen?
Well, in theory, I could.
Just escape, I think.
It's not working. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There we go.
So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to ask you which tiny house you've decided to work with. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to launch a poll. So I have just launched a poll. Would you give me a thumbs up if you see that poll in your chat window or in your box? Give me a thumbs up if you see that. Excellent. Will you go ahead and answer that now? Now, some of you are making more than one, and that is absolutely okay. But we'd like to know which house that you're going to be working on. Oh, so far we have something and everything. I love that. We have some teeny tiny houses, one free library plus ours. So Susan, you're going to be happy about that.
Awesome. I'm a librarian.
Someone is being brave. They're doing the big wooden playhouse. I love it. We have a birdhouse. I'm going to leave that poll up just for a few more minutes. So as people come into this, they can see this poll, but this looks exciting. Looks like we have somebody building something in every place, which will be nice to watch. And as Susan said, we want you to be taking photos of your process. So before you start today, if you put on safety goggles before you start, which we're going to ask you to protect your eyes, make sure that someone in your house snaps a photo so we can see that, and then you'll take photos during the entire process. So I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. Thank you so much for participating in that. And then I'm sharing the results, and you should now see the full poll results with a regular sized cardboard house being our forerunner on this with 3, teeny tiny houses with 2, and then 1 each of birdhouse, little free library, and wooden playhouse. Excellent. So Susan, I'm not sure that we will have to go through each of these because they already know where they're located. But if you're just joining us and you get this slide deck, which we will give to you, you'll just click, hover over and click, and it will take you to a list of suggested patterns, recommended patterns. You can absolutely use your own too. So good job there.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see how these projects progress, you guys. You can see in the background, I've got a little teeny tiny cardboard house that I started. And I actually have another one that's even teeny tinier than that. So you can go small or you can go big all the way up to that wooden playhouse. Fantastic.
So safety is going to be very important for us. I want to just point out this. I have safety glasses. Because we are measuring today, I'm not going to put these on because I have my real glasses on and they're going to protect me. But when I start cutting tomorrow, I will probably use safety goggles to go over my glasses. Because when I put them on like this, not only do I look extremely nerdy, but I can't see through there. So remember, it's safety first. And to share our safety first, we're going to show you a very funny video about how safety first should be performed in a workshop through the voice of kids.
I think it's already starting. Let's go teach you how to use the saw. If you have a saw, be very, 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 because he almost might cut us in half. He can cut your finger, your hand, your nose. No. I know how to use a saw because I'm a builder too. But I'm the teacher. I can still teach you. You need gloves and okay. I'll get gloves. I already got one. You forgot something. What? Glasses. For no, what chips would get in your eyes to mess it up? Well, I'm a builder because I work with builder clothes on and glasses. Nothing to do with standard. To teach by the standard. The standard can you have to have gloves and some what else? And some what? And that's all. And you need to it can grind anything. It can even grind metal. Ooh, amazing. But you have to keep moving. Fine. Let's go teach you about the drill. The drill, it can make holes in it. Yeah, I know. I know everything about it. You have to be pretty good by doing next. If you have a hammer, you get the nail, you put it in the... And then we get gloves and then we nail it. Yeah, I know. Then you put it in. Then you whack it. Not like that, like this. Like you do softly tips. This is taking too long. I'm just gonna hammer. You need gloves. My thumb! I told you so. Now you put it in, you hold it like this, then you have your hammer and you tip it in, then it just, Sam, what did you don't know anything about sand? Cool.
All right, thank you, Susan, for that. I saw the kids or the campers laughing in their little pictures. So obviously we do want to be very careful and we do not want to have any injuries. So we're asking again that someone in your house that's older than you monitors this when you are hammering or when you're cutting. We want this to be a family affair. Well, we're actually going to start doing some practicing now. So Susan, if you will unshare your screen, Susan's going to take the lead on this and she's going to talk about just for a moment the tools we're going to use, and then she's going to show us how to start using those.
Yeah, so let's talk about these just real quick. And I'm hoping that if you brought the materials that we asked you to bring today, that maybe you could show them up in the window. Today's all about measuring, and we have 3 different tools that we're going to talk about with measuring: rulers, tape measures, or yardsticks. If you have one of those things, hold it up to the camera so we can see that you brought your equipment. Did you bring something to measure with today? Oh, I see Dexter did. Let's see. Oh, Michael's I think. Fantastic. So those are all things that are called standard things that we measure. They have little markings on them that have how big something is, how long it is, or how wide it is. Also, that are called non-standard measurements.
Where's the screen?
You want to talk about that?
Yes, so the things that you can use are your finger. So between on your thumb, between your knuckle, your first and second knuckle, you can use as sort of a non-standard measurement for about 1 inch. You can also use from your wrist to your elbow for approximately 1 foot. And if you have paper around your house, you can also use paper. A regular size piece of paper is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. So you can use that for your non-standard. Susan, I'm gonna have to stop with my thing just a minute. I've lost the screen, so keep moving and I'm still here, but okay, I'm back. That was quick. Okay, all right. So let's measure something, Susan.
Yeah, let me flip over, you guys. I got another camera here that I want to show you some stuff. And if you have your measuring tools, you can do this kind of along with me just to start experimenting. Now you notice all of my tools are on this green background, and it looks like I need to do a quick little switch here. Hang on, so that you don't see it. Oh, there we go. So this green background has a bunch of yellow squares on it. And if your moms or your grandmas are quilters, you might have seen one of these things before. This is designed to help me measure fabric when I'm quilting, but it can also work for projects that I'm doing. And so on here, I have this silver ruler, and you can see those little divisions that we talked about earlier. It's marked off in inches and in centimeters. And if I put mine next to Dacia's yardstick, the inches on my ruler would be exactly the same as the inches on her yardstick. That's what makes it a standard measurement. An inch is always an inch, no matter which kind of ruler or yardstick or measuring tape that we're using. Now I have a tape measure also. Did anybody get a tape measure? Oh, I think I see Michael with a tape measure. Right? Now with tape measures, I have to tell you there's something we need to talk about. Tape measures are designed to make it easy for construction workers to pull them out, but then also to pull them back in. And if you do that too fast, is that safe? Miss Dacia, what do you think? Is that safe?
No, because it could hit you in the nose and make it bleed. Not that that's ever happened but twice to me, but yes.
And you know what? I'm remembering something. You guys can't see me right now because I have the camera switched, but I forgot to do something for safety before I started doing this. What should I have put on my face before I started using my tape measure? Yeah, thank you, Miss Dacia. I forgot to do that. I've got my glasses on now. So I've got my tape measure and I've got my ruler. I have one other thing that I found that I think is pretty neat because it's going to help me measure in a lot of different ways. I have this, and I found this at Dollar Tree. So parents, if you're looking for a quick and easy way to get something to measure and do something else with, which I'll show you in a sec, this was kind of a nice little investment. This has got my inches marked off here also. And it's really nice and bright yellow so you can see it. And I just think it's a great tool. It also has centimeters down on the bottom. So if I need to measure in centimeters, I can do that too. Now this one is pretty cool because it also has these bubbles right here that help me tell if something is level. And that's another tool that you might need to use, especially if you're working with wood for your tiny birdhouse or your tiny playhouse. You might need to level things. Now, on measuring tools and those markings that we talked about, you have to pay close attention. This one right here starts with 0 right at the very end. Is that close enough that you can see my measurements? Dacia, are we okay?
Yeah, we're good.
But you might also have one that doesn't start right at the very end. If you look at this one, if I can get it so that it's not reflecting too badly, I have a little bit of space before the 0 starts on this one. And that is called the leading edge. So when we measure, we have to make sure that we start measuring at the little mark, not at the very end of that ruler. Take a quick look at yours. Look and see, do you have a little bit of space before you see the number 0? Or does yours start right at the very edge? Figure that out? I'm gonna take a look at my tape measure too, because a tape measure, well, a tape measure is interesting. If you look on the back side, it actually has a little tiny bit of space between the end of the tape measure and that little silver part right there. The silver part is nice because it hooks on the edge of things so that you can hold it and measure things easily. So really watch carefully about where that is. Now, if I want to measure something, what I need to do is hook that on the end of that thing, and then I pull this all the way out, and then I look all the way over here to see what number in inches it tells me. This tells me that this is 16 inches long, which actually is perfect because if I look at the ruler part of it, oh, here it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way down to 16. So it's 16 inches long. So that's how these measuring tools work. Well, to practice measuring things, don't you have to have something to measure? Should we do some practicing, Miss Dacia? Are we ready to do that, do you think?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to switch back over so that you're seeing my slides. And I think what we're gonna do that other one a little bit later.
Okay.
Oh, so we'll skip over that one. And let's see. Here we go. So you have your thing that you're gonna measure with, right? What we want you to do right now is to take that tool that you have for measuring and put it up to your computer screen and see if you can measure how wide your computer screen is. And when you think you figured it out, we want you to type in the chat box, how wide is your computer screen? I see Dexter's working with his right there. I love that. It's nicely done. I love the teamwork that I'm seeing. When you think you know how many inches, Michael, take another look. A foot is really big. If you had a 12-foot computer screen, it would be huge. I bet you that was inches. Try it one more time. Measure it one more time and see if you would agree.
Yes.
Nice done. Okay, Riley says hers is 11 inches. Libby's got one that's 12 inches. How you doing, Dexter? How wide is yours?
13. Dexter, mine is too. I have a MacBook Pro and it's 13. Actually, it's 13.5. So I have probably a little bit larger than that.
Mine is 12. So mine's just a little bit smaller than Daisha's is.
I noticed that we're all seeing sort of the same types of numbers, which means that it looks like most people are using computers, laptop computers to watch this. Now, if you were watching this on your phone, you might have a smaller measurement. And if we were to put that smaller measurement up there and we would go, oh, wow, 4 inches, did you measure it right? You would then just have to say, I'm using a different device. Can I just also say, Susan, that I saw someone take their phone and do this, which makes me think someone is using the measuring tool that comes on your phone. So Michael, is that an iPhone? You can unmute yourself for just a moment.
Yes, it's the iPhone 8.
Yeah, so on the iPhone, he's noticed that there is an app. It's a free app and you don't even have to download it. It's in your settings and tools. And I think it's just called Measure. Am I correct, Michael, on that one? Yeah. So it also includes another tool called a level. So later on, when he is putting his house together, he'll be able to use that tool. So thank you, Michael, for sharing that. I'll let you mute yourself back.
Awesome. Miss Daisha, we've lost your video, just so you know on your end.
Oh, and I want you to see what I'm doing. Hang on a second. I'll put myself back up there.
I'm thinking that they might be ready for another challenge. Are you ready for another?
Yes, let's do another one, please. I'm ready for one.
So our next measuring challenge, you're going to have to get up and walk away and go do your measuring and then come back. What we want you to measure is at one of your doors in your house. We want you to measure from the very bottom of the door up to the door handle. Can you get up and walk away from your computer and see if you can figure out how long or how tall that distance is from the bottom of the floor, or from the floor to the bottom edge of your door handle?
Now, if you're using just a regular ruler for this, you may have to measure up until the ruler ends and then put your finger where it ends and then set the ruler back on top of it. That might be something you would have to do.
And then come back and tell us in that chat window, how tall was it? Anybody back yet?
Just type that right in for us. Susan is doing double duty right now. Let me tell you what's happening. I am trying to make sure that we are streaming to YouTube, which we are. We're doing great. And also admitting some people and answering some emails from some people that are saying they're late, Susan. So thank you for grabbing those directions. So again, guys, go ahead and type in if you found out the distance from the bottom edge to the door handle. And I already see 3 measurements that are within 2 inches of each other, which is very exciting because that means we are right on target with our measuring. In houses, there is a specific standard measurement for the bottom of the floor to the door handle. So we are right in that wheelhouse. If someone said it's 96 inches, then I would assume you live in a castle and that your doors have to be large enough for a dragon or a giant to walk through. But it looks like, Susan, we have basic measurements here between 32 and 35 inches, which I feel is very, very close. And here's the other thing, depending on what type of door handle you have, if you measure to the door handle in the middle, you'll be a little slightly different if you measure to just underneath the door handle or if you went above it. Look at this precise measurement, 34 and 25 hundredths which we would translate into 34 1/4 inches. And Michael again is using that very handy dandy precise measurement on his phone. Oh, let's do another one, Susan.
Well, I've got two questions for you first. First of all, what did you say that was the standard measurement for door handles?
So 32.5 is what we found as the industry standard, but that was on a website, and then another website that was on a Lowe's website said that it was 34. So even within the industry, they kind of change a little bit, but I feel very confident that our builders here are on the right track because they were actually in the wheelhouse of 32 to 35. So great job measuring.
So my question for all of you guys, and you don't have to do this now because we're in a measuring challenge. I have another challenge for you. But in your off time, I'm wondering if you went to all the doors in your house and start at your front door and then go to your bedroom door and your mom and dad's bedroom door and the pantry door and the garage door, would you find the same measurement on every single door?
And if you didn't, whose fault would that be?
I think maybe that would be a fun challenge to do. I know Mary's got a lot of doors in her house. That would keep her busy all day long. So if you're bored, that would be something cool to do. All right, here's your next measuring challenge. Are you ready? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready for the next challenge. I need to see that in the chat, in the video window. Are you ready? Here we go. Challenge number 3. I want you to go find the front door of your house or your apartment, and I want you to measure from one side to the other side inside the door jamb. Just measure the door, not the part that surrounds it.
And don't go outside for this one. Just do the inside. We don't want you stepping outside, the door shutting, and you're locked out for the rest of the day. So run to your front door and get a measurement. And again, she's asking inside the door jamb. Don't include the molding that is around it. And I just double checked the industry standard, and it's between 34 and 38 is the industry standard. So there's really not a standard per se. There's a couple of them.
Interesting. All right. Has anybody come back yet? Oh, Mary just came back. What'd you find, Mary? How wide was it?
Nice. So we're finding out something kind of interesting.
Oh.
And the height to the door handle is about the same. Very close to the same. Now, some of you may have a double door. So if you did, we may be seeing 72 inches, 75 inches if you measured all the way across. If someone had a sliding glass door, what would that be? If you lived in a house with a giant, what would the width of your door be?
You know, it's interesting to see all the measurements, guys. Look in your chat window. So many of them are 35.5 or 36 inches, right? And so I'm wondering too, what if you went to all the other doors in your house and measured how wide they are? Would you find the same thing? I know for a fact, Daisha, that I've got a door in my house that is not as wide as my front door. It's really skinny. It's a bathroom door to a tiny little bathroom that we have. And it's tough to get inside that door sometimes because it's really skinny. Interesting. All right, are you guys ready for the last challenge?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to be really careful with this one. Really careful because it's going to ask you to do something that's delicate. I want you to go into your kitchen and find a dinner plate and see if you can measure the distance across that dinner plate.
Now, I would suggest that you not get your mom or dad or grandma's best china. So maybe ask permission to use either a
How about
plastic,
a paper?
could be paper, but we want you to measure across the center. We call that what? Who wants to throw a word in there? The distance across
A circle.
a circle. Any of my older kids in there remember that vocabulary word from geometry? The distance from one side to the other side of a circle passing through the center. Yes, the diameter.
Thank you, Mary. Good job.
Can you tell us what half of that diameter would be? What is the vocabulary word from an outside point on a circle to the center of a circle? Look at that, Susan. Everybody's is about the same, and yes, radius is our vocabulary word. Nice. So we're learning a little bit here. It doesn't have to be school. Oh, I love that. Michael has square plates. So his length or width across is 10.5. Now, I want to add one more to this, Susan. So I want us to go ahead and see if we can measure our knuckle, our first knuckle to our second knuckle on our thumb, and see what our measurement is, and see if that really does work for non-standard measurement. So again, you're going to put the beginning of your ruler or measuring tape at the first place where your thumb bends, and then at the second place. So this long piece right here, how long is that? Let's see if we can, that's going to be a little tough because you got to use your hand and then your other hand to use the measuring tool.
Okay, Riley's is exactly 1 inch. Michael, did you measure from this first knuckle over to the second knuckle, or did you measure from the end of your finger all the way over? He's like, I'm not sure which part I measured. All right.
But this is good because these are non-standard, which means they're going to be different. A basketball player is going to have a larger hand normally, and so theirs is going to be a little different. As I measure mine is about 1 inch, 1 inch. So great job proving that non-standard measurement does work. All right, so let's quit sharing for just a minute, Susan, and let's have everybody turn on your microphones. So let's talk for a minute. I'm going to call on you, and I want you to tell me what you thought about when you were measuring. Was it difficult? Was it hard? Or one challenge you might have had? And Mary, you're the first person coming up on my screen right now. So can you unmute yourself and tell us, how did the measuring go? Mary? Can you, there you go. So how did the measuring go, Mary?
It went pretty good.
What was hard about it?
The hard part was getting this like black thing to stay in place.
Very good. Michael, what about you?
And
Say it again.
I thought it was actually, it's like average measuring. It's in the middle. Wasn't that hard,
Okay. What is a challenge using your phone app? What did you really have to concentrate on?
but I really had to concentrate on holding it still, and if it went to an angle, it probably wouldn't give me an accurate measurement. That's
Okay.
the only problem. I have to hold the phone still.
Nice. All right. So, Dexter, what about you? Tell us how the measuring went.
It was fun.
Good. I like that. That was that fun part. Susan, we talked earlier about the making sure we learn something, but we put fun in there too. Which one of those things was the hardest to measure for you, Dexter?
My knuckle, because my thumb knuckle went, the first one went, it's kind of hard to see.
Okay. Thank you. Carson, what about you? How did the measuring go? And I love this. I see your goggles on top of your head, your safety glasses. Good job.
It was pretty hard using the phone app because you would have to angle it, try not to move it, and make it stay in place.
Right. There's actually a line on your phone that you have to sort of line it up with. And Carson, you said something interesting. I've used the phone app where I've had to go around the corner. And if I didn't keep my phone steady, my measurement was way off. Like I moved my phone and so it looked like the measurement went up in the middle.
So, Ms. Desha, I found out something interesting that I think it's appropriate to share right now. If you have a measuring tape, look on the end of that little lip that pulls down, that little silver part. Do you see how there's a hole in there?
Mm-hmm.
That hole has a purpose. They designed it specifically for that to be there, because when contractors are out there and they're measuring and they're trying to put together a house, they don't always have time to say, hey, George, come help me hold this in place. And so far, I heard 3 different people say it was really hard to keep my measuring device, whether it was my phone or if it was my measuring tape, still so that I could measure. So that little hole is so that the contractors can put it right where a nail is sticking up. And a nail has a tiny little lip that sticks through there. And then all they have to do is pull their measuring tape out and use it.
Very
And so
nice.
it was designed specifically so that it will stay in place for them. I thought that was kind of cool.
Thank you for that little tip. Braden, tell us about your experience with the measuring. Let's get you unmuted for a minute. You want to share? Can you unmute yourself? There's a little button. If you'll just click that little microphone and make it turn green. It might say the host. There you go. Braden, how did the measuring go?
How did the measuring go for you?
Good.
What was your favorite thing to measure?
What part did you like measuring the most?
The door.
No, tell her.
The door.
Very nice. Thank you for measuring the door for us. Riley, tell us about your experience with measuring.
It was pretty.
Let's try that again. Let me try to unmute yourself again, Riley. There you go.
Pretty good.
Okay. Was there any hard things?
Yeah, it was measuring the width of the door.
Okay, very good. Libby. No? Do you want to share? Okay, that's okay. Mr. Drake is cool. Is he there? Oh, Mr. Drake had to go out. Libby shared that it was pretty easy and it wasn't a big problem for her, so we need to give her some bigger challenges. How about Emery and Ansley? Tell us how it was for you. Was it hard? I'm going to see if you can unmute your screen. There you go. How was it, Emery?
Good.
What did you measure?
The door.
The door. Did you measure it up to the part where, I know at your front door you have that rubber thing on there, right? That you cover the doorknob with. Ainsley, did you measure anything?
My thumb.
Yes, good job for measuring your thumb. Excellent. So Amy, I think knowing what they've done and what they're able to do, I think they're ready to get moving. Like they are ready to start now doing their pieces. So if you'll share your screen one more time and let's sort of finish up this deck and talk about a few more things so we can get them moving.
Absolutely. Here we go, guys. All right. So we found that some of the things that we measure are easy, right? But some of the things that we measure can be tricky also. And so Miss Stacia found a really cool video that shows us some interesting ways that you can measure that are really, it's more than just spread your tape measure out and count the numbers. So we have this video, it's a quick one, so you'll have to perk up and watch.
And before you share it, Susan, I just want to say, we're not suggesting that this is the way you have to measure, but it was an interesting way to figure out how to measure, because sometimes you don't have a calculator with you and you're having to add numbers up. So this is just one of those cool tricks that will help you measure if you want to try this. All right.
Here we go.
All right, quick question. What's 37 5/8 divided by 2? This is definitely confusing. Well, I don't know either. And I hate doing math.
He really doesn't hate math.
No.
He's a little frustrated, but he really doesn't hate math. We don't hate math either. Math is awesome.
It hurts my brain just thinking about it. But I got a few simple tricks to divide any length in half. Let's say I want to find the center of this piece of plywood that measures 37 5/8 of an inch wide. Now that doesn't divide evenly. To make things easier, I just rounded up to something that does divide evenly, like 38 or 40. I'm going to use 40. I'll hold my tape diagonally till I reach 40. Now half of 40 is 20. When I mark 20 on the diagonal, that board is divided exactly in half. Still too complicated for you? I have an even easier way. If you have two tape measures, take one and measure from one side of the board, take the other, measuring from the other side of the board, and where the two numbers match, in this case, 18 and 13/16 is the center of our board. And you thought math was hard.
I love that, Susan, because that gives you another fun way. And also, kids, for those of you that will start back into school in the fall, you can share that trick with your math teacher and he or she will be very impressed. So we'll try that.
So before we jump into finishing out and getting you guys working, there's one more thing that I think is important to share. Ms. Stacia, we didn't talk about this specifically, but I think that you will agree that this is kind of an important step. And this is really talking specifically about what you do next. Right? You picked your project and we know that we need to do some measuring to kind of get it started. Are you seeing my webcam, Dacia?
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, there we go. So we have to think about what kinds of things are we going to be measuring. And so I showed you guys earlier that I have a teeny tiny house that I was working on in the background. Well, this is another one that I thought, this is a box that I'm thinking might make an interesting little teeny tiny house. And I was looking at it last night and thinking, well, how am I going to make this be a teeny tiny house? And so I think what I want to do is make this so that this is part of the roof, right? When I bend it down. But I need to know how to cut this so that it's a triangle. Well, a triangle has to be right in the middle facing up. So I'm going to try and see if I can get my camera to behave so that you can see this better. So I used my measuring tools to measure. Whoop. Oh, Miss Stacia, this is not working well. I used my measuring tool to measure and I discovered that this is 8 1/4 inches wide. And so I was able to find the middle point of it and put a mark. And so now I'm going to turn it upside down so you can see better. So you can see where my mark is right there. I want to turn this into a triangle. So I am going to draw a straight line with my ruler from the middle point down to that corner. And that way I will know where I need to cut. My pencil just broke, so I'm going to use my Sharpie instead. So that will help me make it so that I've got the two pointed ends of my house that I can then fold up and make into the roof for my tiny house. So your job is going to be to try and figure out what kinds of things do you need to measure next. The other thing that I noticed was I'm going to need some windows and some doors in my house. My house is already this tiny box, right? And I know Mary was telling me that she's got a box that she saved and she's going to turn it in. Well, but right now it doesn't have any doors or windows. I kind of cheated a little bit. Maybe it's not cheating. Maybe I was just thinking smarter. I decided that I wanted my door to be on the side right here, but it's kind of hard to draw on a box that's already made. So do you know what I did? I took a piece of paper like this, and I did my measuring with my ruler on the paper, and I cut out a rectangle for my door, and I wrote down this is the door, and I also made a window. And so now I can take the paper onto the box, and I'm going to trace it so that that can be where I cut tomorrow when I'm starting to use my cutting tools. Okay. So if you want to make patterns for your doors and your windows, if you're doing your cardboard house, that might be one way to do it instead of having to draw right on the box. That's kind of hard to finagle. You saw how I was kind of struggling to get it under the camera. Now, if you're, yes.
So I would also suggest that if you're using wood today and you are cutting out your wood, or excuse me, measuring your wood, go ahead and use a Sharpie or some type of magic marker to make your marks on there, because you want to be able to see it. But be very careful, because this is the back part of my board and this is my front part. So I'm probably going to measure on the back and go ahead and make it big with a Sharpie, and maybe even write on here that this is what I'm going to cut in 2 pieces tomorrow. But this is the line that I will be measuring and cutting it on. So don't be afraid. If you walk around in a house that's under construction right now, you're going to see that construction workers and builders have written all over that house on the inside. So feel free to mark on your boards, but you might want to mark on the sides that will not be facing outward. So I will be cutting this today. I'll also, not cutting, measuring. I'm also going to be measuring some 2x4s. Okay. So this. And then I have some very large pieces that we will be measuring. Let me see if I can show you this. So all the way here, and I know that I need to cut these in about 8-inch strips. I'm going to measure every 8 inches. Now you may be wondering where I got this, and I will tell you. I went dumpster diving this weekend. We found some neighborhoods that were building and they were throwing all their scraps away into a dumpster, and then a dumpster truck would come pick that up. So we were able to find all of our wood for free. So if you're still trying to think about how can you find your wood and you couldn't get it donated, ask your parents if they want to do a quick ride around town and see if people are throwing out. Now, do not go to a building site and get their wood off the site, right? That's what they're using tomorrow. But if it's in a dumpster, you can go ahead and pick that up. Well, Susan, it looks like we're getting ready to start our build. Why don't we look at our reflection pieces real quickly, and then we're going to release them to start moving.
So we would like you to tell us what you learned about measuring today. And we want to know what things you think you're going to need to measure. So if you're working on a cardboard tiny house like I am, what are you going to have to measure? If you're working on a birdhouse or a little free library, what are you going to need to measure? Okay. And the way that you're going to do that is by going back to that home base. Do you remember that blue house that I showed you to start with? And at the home base, you will see a link and it will take you to our reflections. And here's what you're going to do when you get there. Everybody, it's time to do our daily reflections. Remember to go back to our home base and click here to visit our Padlet for reflections. Each day we have some questions for you. We want you to think about the questions, and then when you're ready to tell us what you're thinking about, you're going to find the question and click on the plus sign. For day one, we want you to think about, what did you learn about measuring today? And what things will you measure as you begin building your tiny house? When you click on the plus sign, you can type information for us. Oh, don't forget to put your name in the title. You can also attach things. So if you want to draw pictures and then take pictures of those and put them in, you can click on the camera tool or click on the upload tool to add other things in there too. So don't forget to share what you're thinking about with us as we go through our week together. So that's
Now remember, your parents got this email, so they should be able to pull up the email, click on the link, and see the tiny house. That's where you're going to be able to, that's what they use today actually to get into the actual event. Now this day, obviously it was running a little shorter because we don't have any of your stuff to look at. Tomorrow, we're hoping to go to the tiny house, read through the reflections and see what you've done so far. So if you'll hit that last slide, Susan, it is time to measure. So we're going to stay online as long as you want us to brainstorm and help you problem solve. If you are ready to go ahead and just log out and say, I'm doing it, that's fine. I will let you know we have 14 people that are watching this as a participant because they didn't want their pictures on camera, which is perfectly fine. But so we have a total of 27 people watching right now, which is real exciting. And we had 3 emails that said that we have some people that were out of town today, but we'll catch up on this tonight. Miss Susan has already added the links. Susan, can you pull up quickly the tiny house that they would see in the doc?
I sure can. There we go.
All right, so can you put that in presentation mode just for one moment? Just so we can remind you, this is what you'll see on the computer. These links are now live. Now you're only seeing day 1. We're not gonna put day 2s up until tomorrow. Remember, there are places for you to link. You can send us an email. And tonight, if you have time, there's some great books that you ought to check out. Susan, are you excited?
I'm super excited. And
I'm excited too.
I'm going to be here for a while. So if you want to stay online and talk and ask questions, you can. Or if you want to start measuring and getting going on your project, that's great too.
So if you'll unshare your screen, Susan, and then I'm just going to say, I'm going to start working on this box because I want to do a little tiny house, and then I'll be adding to my larger house here. And then Steve and I need to start measuring quickly because we're building a little free library that we can put out in our neighborhood so that Emory and Ansley can come take books out and then put some new ones in. So thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to see what you build tomorrow. And remember, if you're not sure what you're building, on the website link that your parents have, if you click on whichever house you want, it takes you to some patterns. So if you haven't pulled your patterns out yet, feel free to do that. So we're going to wave goodbye, but just know that we're hanging out here if you want to talk to us. If you want to unmute your mic and talk to us for a few minutes, please feel free to do that. I'm going to go ahead and stop the live stream on YouTube. Thank you for those that joined us today. We hope to see you tomorrow.